Okay, I was asked to show off the setup I did for creating vent crawling in Sword of Moonlights. Let's start with what the final effect will look like. I have a little GIF open here. So you have a vent grate that opens, you crouch, and then you go through the vent. Okay, let's show how I did that. So I have two separate meshes here for the tiles. One is the visual instance of the mesh, and I have a little base man mesh I found on the polycount forum somewhere, and I'm using that for illustrative purposes here to show kind of what your player will be seeing. So visually, you have this floor, and you have this wall, 2 meters by 2 meters, which is a sort of Moonlight tile. And then you have the actual underlying collision for this visual instance, which is a separate mesh file. So this is what the player is actually colliding with. It's a floor 1 meter down from ground level, 0, 0, and it's 1 meter high walls. And then I have this long hallway, significantly wider than the visual instance would suggest. This is because hallways need to be quite wide in Sword of Moonlight. Your character's collision box, cylinder, whatever they use, is quite large. So I export these, pop them into Metasequoia vent entrance, I believe I've called it, and I label them as two different files. I import these as GLTFs, which I export from Wings 3D, my preferred 3D modeling software. And then from there, save as X, X, and then I have them saved as vent entrance and vent entrance underscore call for collision. Once I have those imported separately, I go into my files here. I look for the ones I just created, which is vententrance.x and vententrantcall.x. I'm going to drag the visual instance, which is vent entrance, into the X2 MSM. MSM is the visual model format that From Software uses for its tiles. I'm going to drag it right into there. It'll give me a warning because my texture is larger than 256 by 256. That's fine. And then I'm going to drag my vent entrance call.x into the X2 MHM, which is From Software's collision model file format that they use for tiles. Drag that into there. I'm going to rename vent entrance call.mhm to just vent entrance.mhm. Now we have all the files we need to import into Sword of Moonlight. I use the Sword of Moonlight helper tool. I select the vententrance.x. This is findable on the swordofmoonlight.com forums, but you can also just use From Software's own official tool, which is objectedit.exe. And you can do it this way. Oh, no, excuse me. Pieceedit.exe. And you can use it this way, too. It has the exact same layout here with a model name and a collision name, separate files. Model name is MSM. Collision data name is MHM. But I prefer to use the Sword of Moonlight helper. Just a moment. Okay, so we're going to take our vententrance.msm. We're going to go into the three dots, the three ellipses button. It'll load up our data map MSM button. I just drag the file straight in here from wherever my work folder is. I've already done this, so I'm going to skip it here. And then I will do the same with my MHM collision file. Drag it right into there. Oh. Drag it straight into there. but I've already done this, so I'm going to skip this for now. Okay. Now I'm going to load up my Sword of Moonlight map editor. So as it is right now, we're going to have a collision that looks like a vent that you sink down 1 meter into when you walk over it. Yes. So now that is what we have done. We have a tile that looks like it is ground level, but actually sinks you a meter down. It is the exact same trick for this interior pipe, just visual instance that is at ground level with its collision 1 meter down. I will show you that real quick just for illustrative purposes. This is the visual mesh of the pipe. And this is what its collision looks like. Just a 2 meter by 2 meter long corridor sunk 1 meter into the ground. But there's one more thing that is required for this effect to work, and it is an invisible elevator. So I have an invisible elevator here. I'm going to set everything back to ground level. Okay. So to get the invisible floor, save my map data real quick and go out into SOM main. I'm going to open up the parameter editor. I need to register a new object. I have this just set as dummy floor right now. And its model data is event dummy 1 no display. This comes with Sword of Moonlight, and it is completely invisible to the player, but you can walk on it. It is exactly 2 meters by 2 meters empty floor. So I just use that. Once you've registered it, applied, and all that, we can close out the parameter editor, because that's all we needed it for. Crack open our map editor. And now we get to do some event scripting. For the piece, I create a new object. I use the 3D model dummy floor, which I had registered in the parameter list. I create a new event using add. Oh, not add. Using event setup, I create a new event. In this case, I have called my event crouch down. And here's how it works. I have an if statement. I've created a new counter here called isInCrouch. This value can be either 0 or 1. 0 if it is not in crouch, 1 if you are in crouch. If you are not in crouch and you hit the interact button, trigger event when examined, it will move the object to the same map coordinates as before, but 1 meter down from where it was before, and in 0.3 of a second. It will also play a sound effect to make it sound like you're crouching, and it will change the isInCrouch counter to 1, meaning we are now in a crouch mode. Now, if we were to use the elevator again, we are already set to isInCrouch, so this if statement, isInCrouch equals 0, is no longer true. So it knows that it is already retracted down. So instead, when you hit the examine button, it will raise the dummy floor from its -1 position to 0, 0 again at the same map coordinates in 0.2 of a second. It plays the sound effect for crouching, and it changes our isInCrouch counter back to 0. Then we end the logic. Finally, the last thing that I have going on here is a vent grate. The vent grate is just a custom object that I have imported into Sword of Moonlight. It looks like this. It is exactly offset by 2 meters so that it's going to sit flush directly in front of our grate hole that we've created here. our visual instance. I export that as an object, same way as we did for tiles, but I save it as an MDO. And then I just set it to go into my logic here. Move up. It moves up 1 meter when you approach it. That is the whole setup.